I do love painting and drawing.
Yeah. You've written a novel, Maria.
I have written a novel. Yes, that's true. I do dabble in writing as well. I did it when I was working for Barclays, actually. It was between the hours of 5 and 8 a.m., which is exactly the time that I used to study for my ACCA or for my FRM. It's just my morning time is very productive, so I tend to do things that I enjoy.
Hello, my name's Rachel Shorter. I'm your host for ACCA's Journey to CFO podcast. Today, I'm joined by Maria Ghibu, Global CFO of Testhouse, with more than 20 years' experience in finance and operations and leadership across technology and biotech services. Maria has held positions such as CFO, COO, CEO, and non-executive director positions in both listed, venture-backed, and high-growth organisations. She's led finance transformation, fundraising, M&A, and international growth initiatives. Maria, thank you very much for joining us on ACCA's Journey to
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
So we're going to go back to the basics, and we're going to speak about ACCA and how it anchored you, your qualifications, how long it took you, because I know that you started in one of the big fours.
Yes,
so just speak us through the process and why ACCA was so important to you.
Well, when I graduated university, sort of the best students wanted to go to Big Four because we didn't have the MBB at that point in Romania. It was PwC. We thought it was the best because they had the best parties. Don't tell anyone. But I chose PwC. I had multiple offers, and it was a fantastic time. And everybody in my cohort got enrolled for the ACCA. We got excited about that because, when you finish university, you're thinking, what's next? So when you go and learn a new job, and having something like ACCA on the side where you have a continuation of the formal education with the exams and everything, that sort of anchors you into learning. And that's something that I kept throughout my career. When I finished the ACCA, I went to the FRM straight away. So the ACCA in itself, I felt it gave me more knowledge. So for example, when you're a junior in Big Four, you tend to do certain things, but then through the exams, you learn other things. And so I'm super ambitious, so I took the maximum number of exams allowed per session, and then I did all two sessions per year. I just blazed through them in 3 years and a half. So I qualified really quickly, and obviously I had the support of the Big Four sort of organization, because when you have those people there that have gone through both the qualification process as well as their career to guide you, it's just invaluable. So it's huge learning for me. And I appreciate having had the chance to do that as early as 2005, right? So it's been more than 20 years. And I keep thinking that I'm a bit of a dinosaur, right? Like I know
we need us in this profession.
But they changed everything. Now the exams are completely different. Things evolve so much in 20 years. But what I take away and what I've learned through those exams, nobody takes that away. You just go throughout your career. It's transferable skills. You can use it in so many roles, like you said. It's just instead of being limiting, it's actually empowering you to do so many things.
Absolutely. And I've noticed that with the exam change, and that's one of the great things about ACCA is that they change with the times. They're innovative. It's a qualification that can just open so many doors, so many chapters, and nobody can take that away from you. So thank you for sharing that with us. So now you've got your qualifications, you're working in a Big Four. And one of the things I've always seen when I was coming up is that the transition out from the Big Four or an accountancy firm into commercial is sometimes one of the hardest steps. How did you find that
It is hard, and but I was very privileged. So when I moved from Romania to Luxembourg in 2007, immediately I was perceived as sort of the expert in IFRS and standards and so on. So all of a sudden, the knowledge that I had in Romania, which for me was like sort of baseline, it became something that the rest of the organization didn't necessarily have, or not to the extent that we had. So immediately I was placed in a role where I was able to use my knowledge more. And so I got to work. It was an amazing time. I'm not going to mention the client, but it was during the financial crisis, 2008, a lot of things happening. It was a very large organization, post-merger integration context. I was writing white papers based on standards. Like, it was just fantastic from a professional perspective. But after I've done that and got to manager level, I thought, do I want to be a partner in 4 or 5 years? That was the question that I asked myself. And I thought, actually, I kind of want to go sideways. I just want to do something else. I don't want to be a partner in 5 years. That's not what I want. So I moved into consulting.
Okay.
So I thought I thought for me it was just a step laterally. I thought it must be really easy because I know everything, right? And then I ended up working again in another post-merger context, but from a program management perspective. So I thought it must be easy. Actually, it was not easy because for the first time in my life, I had to learn from scratch. I had to learn how to do an effective presentation, how to tell a story, how to persuade a group of people. I was working directly with the CFO at that point of the large organization. So everything had to go through our program to actually be able to go live. So all of a sudden, I had to teach myself like a whole set of skills. I was, again, very privileged and lucky. I was working with a fantastic director at the time who was sort of leading on there. And she like sat me down, and many times I was doing something and she was sitting next to me and saying, hey, look how I'm doing it. So she was doing it again. And then during the meetings, I would observe her, how her presence in the room, how she spoke to people, to senior people, how many times she didn't speak and she would just listen, and then she would just give the right advice at the right time. It was just fascinating. Every time after every meeting, we had a debrief, and she said, this is what you did well, this is what you didn't do well, this is what you should do next time. It was it was transformational for me. So
I was going to go on to that, actually, just touch on that point, is that we don't, so when we start our career and we go for the exams and then we get the dream job, we land the dream job, no one actually tells us that the importance of having a coach or a mentor or somebody in the business that's going to almost anchor you and help you find your footing, especially in a world where a lot of the executives are very executive and we have to find our voice. How important was it to you to have a mentor?
At that point, it was critical. And I have to say that I deliberately sought out this person. So essentially, I was based in Geneva. This director was based in London. We crossed paths. She went to a conference in Geneva. We had a conversation, and I admired her so much. She was the risk expert in the company. I thought, I just want to work with you. And so we had a conversation. And a couple of months later, she said, I have this huge program. Do you want to come work with me? And I said, yes. So I deliberately sought her out, and her being a woman was, a huge thing for me, because many times there are just so few women. In that consulting firm at that time, I think we were like more than 100 people, maybe 10 women.
Wow.
And very few at senior levels. It's just, there are not that many women.
Yes.
And in the banking programs that I was in, I was most of the times just me, just one woman, and then nobody else was a woman. And this lady who has had such an amazing impact on me, at some point when I was, again, 3-4 years in, I was thinking, what could I learn next? What could I do next? Because again, I feel like I'm doing the same things. And I went to her, because she had a PhD, and I went to her and I said, I want to do a PhD, of course, because she had a PhD. And she looked at me and she said, you don't have the temperament for a PhD. You're not going to, it's too much politics. It's just not for you. Listen to me, just go and do an MBA.
Yeah.
So she is the person that convinced me to do an MBA, actually. And that's how I ended up at INSEAD.
Do you feel like you needed the MBA?
Yeah. So I think that before I went to the MBA, I didn't think I needed it, because I thought, everything that they study there, I've had the ACCA, I have the FRM, I've studied those things. I know those things. But when I went into the program, a few things changed. I just realized that I didn't need more of the technical knowledge. I needed more of the soft skills, like management decision making, psychological issues in management, all of those leadership classes that I had neglected so far. I wanted to go and learn everything, and that changed my career completely after INSEAD, because I realized that after my MBA, I realized that in order to be able to lead, you have to influence people. And that's actually has nothing to do with debit and credit, and that matters. You have to know those things, but they are just sort of the baseline, and the skill set for the next stage is different. So that was
that was quite instrumental to you. So now that you've landed your role, you've got your qualifications, you're doing your MBA, you complete your MBA. What were the next steps for you in terms of your journey to CFO?
I was very keen to be an operator. I wanted to be in a company, because I felt, in Big Four and then afterwards in consulting, it's just, you can't do anything. You can just advise, you can just advise and you can run certain things, but you don't actually take decisions. And I love taking decisions, that's one of my favorite things. I love to do things as well. So I was very keen to go into the innovation tech world. That's why I ended up in London, because one of the things that drives me is how happy I am in the morning, and that's driven by, am I making an impact?
Right.
Is it important that I wake up this morning so that we, for example, ship a medical device? That kind of question. So that's why I gravitated towards higher risk businesses that had a high component of R&D, like biotech and robotics,
Right.
because I felt that that's important. That's important for now. It's important for the future. It's something exciting. Who doesn't want to work with robots, right? It's fun.
No, absolutely.
So
No, that's brilliant. So I think an important message in there is that once we have our qualifications, once we've done the debits and the credits, like finance will be finance anywhere we go.
Yeah.
But finding a position that aligns with your values, you just cannot go wrong. And it's super important because not only does it energize you, it keeps you going.
Yeah.
And it's just something that, as you said, allows you to wake up every morning and actually feel motivated to do what you do.
Life is too short, man, to not actually,
Absolutely.
You have to love what you do.
So the first 90 days in your first CFO role.
Oh my God. So I think we were talking about this the other day, but when I first got when I got my first C-level role, I felt like I had been doing the work for like at least 3-4 years,
Wow.
Just because I feel that as women we have to prove more and do more before finally someone says, you know what, yeah, you're ready to be a C-level. So I didn't. I don't feel like I did things that were much different from before. But if I have to step into a new CFO role, I have a few rules, and I think that the first 90 days are critical, and the first 30 days for me mean that I need to establish the right relationships with the key stakeholders, and that's going to be my team. It's going to be the peers. It's going to be maybe the board, the CEO, the people that actually you touch base with every day. You have to actually establish the right relationships, and I think that's the key thing, and that's what made me successful in all of my roles. That I took the time and met the people, understood who they were. For example, we need to know whether you have kids, for example, because if somebody gets sick at work, at school, then you're going to not be able to be at work. And I need to understand that. And I'm going to be fine with that. But me knowing that, it just prepares me to not have a reaction when something happens. So knowing, we have to bring our whole selves to work. We're not robots. So I want to understand who somebody is. Beyond the work. So this is the key part for me.
No, absolutely. And I went to an ACCA conference in October, and one of the speakers said, when you first step into actually any role, but more so when you go into senior, first you listen, then you look on what's under the bonnet, you look at the numbers, you look at the business, then you walk, you never run, especially not in your first 90 days.
Correct.
The listening part was the most important feature that they were saying that happens in your first 90 days. You need to understand. So don't just go in with the advice, go in with the ears first. So no, it's really interesting hearing you say that as well.
That's true, because the assumption is not that I know everything, it's that I know nothing. I don't know this business, I don't know these people, I don't know the cadence, I don't know how things work, how long things take and so on. But that being said, I like in the first 90 days to have 1 or 2 mini wins,
Okay.
So because it's good to show people that things can move, things can change, and get some wins. Make everybody feel good, right? That's something that you show that the momentum is there, and then you just continue like that.
Any setbacks in your journey to CFO? Anything that made you stop and think, actually, what
many
am I
of
doing
them.
here? Yeah.
Many of them.
Give us one.
At some point during my career, in the sort of the last 5 years, I've decided that I want to set up a robotic startup as a CEO, as a co-founder, which was very ambitious, and we took specific decisions that had specific consequences. So we decided not to take any investor money and bootstrap everything until we got to a certain point, and we ran out of runway before we got the product market, which is very typical for a first-time founder. In retrospect, I would do things differently, but essentially, while I was on that journey, a big setback is mental health is a problem, because it's a very lonely journey to be a founder. It's very difficult. It's just you and your dream, and you have to make it work, and you have to build and you talk to investors. It's just difficult. And during that time, in parallel, I was a non-executive director in the Institute of Internal Auditors. So, and as an NED role, that's a completely different role. But I was in the audit and risk committee, and so I was applying my finance skills very heavily, And when I had to close down the startup, I had this moment of, what next? Like who I am now, who am I now, right? Because my identity is very strongly linked to my professional life. So I thought, it's not nice to fail. It's the word fail has this connotation, and you're thinking, how do I, who am I now? Like, what am I going to do? And so luckily for me, I had a few friends around me that actually were building their own startups, and they needed finance expertise, because not every founder like myself has ACCA and can do financial modeling and do all of the finance work. So they asked me for help. So I did some, I call it fractional work for a couple of startups, which is sort of my transition into a full-time CFO role.
Yeah.
But the reason I did it was because it was there. People were asking me for help. So I said, okay. Now beyond that, I guess that the setback is, in certain times in our career, we actually end up at the point where we don't know where to go, right? We're thinking, where do I go next? And then sometimes something is very close to us, or we're very deeply knowledgeable about an area, and then we reinvent ourselves there. So I think that's my sort of recent transition point there, where I thought, actually, I'm really good at finance and I really love it. So
Absolutely.
what would a career as a CFO look like for me?
Yeah. No, absolutely. One of the things that we spoke about was, as much as we go up and down, the importance of those lateral moves. And we speak about, as you said, like bringing value doesn't just come from the center. Sometimes it comes from the edges. Just to speak about that a little bit, and the importance of, when you were climbing, how many lateral moves you made, because it wasn't just about the title at that point. Now it's about knowledge. It's about building relationships.
I feel like I did a lot of those moves, maybe 5 or 6 throughout my career, because I never, set up 20 years ago to say I want to be a CFO or I want to be a CEO. Although I may have said I want to be a CEO at that point, because I like to call the shots. So it's nice to be the ultimate decision maker. But I guess for me it was always about what excited me at the next role, or the role that I wanted to pursue.
Okay.
And like I said before, it has to be something that I feel matters. That's why I gravitate towards higher risk, but also more interesting industries as well, because it's just exciting when, even if you fail at robotics, you failed at robotics. I didn't fail at, I don't know, I can't find a boring thing, but it's I still learned so much by failing in that startup. I will say that. And the lateral moves matter because nobody takes away the knowledge that you have. You carry it with you. You, in the next role, you will know a lot more. And in my view, I value people who have the experience that I have. And one of my favorite books is Range. And the reason for that is because innovation happens at the edges. You can have deep expertise, like a T, you have deep expertise in an area, which I do finance, but also I have lots of knowledge on operations and other areas. So that always helps me do my job better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you to BDO, our sponsors, who's not just helping finance teams and organisations create value, but also transforming them into a true strategic partner. The best finance teams don't just report performance, they drive it. From AI and insightful-led decision-making, we're unlocking the power of finance. Partner with BDO to future-proof the finance function and accelerate your journey into being a value-driven finance leader. Ready to go ahead? Visit the finance function of the future at bdo.co.uk. So I wanted to touch on leadership, because one of the things we don't get prepared for, I don't think, in any exam, but it's only life that can bring that kind of value and those lessons to you, is how to lead. And a great leader is someone that not only just makes the ship, but they're also able to steer the ship. So everyone around them has comfort that this person is the person they want leading them. Any leadership setbacks that you've had, or anything that you found quite tough as you grew into this leader on your journey?
So one of the things, maybe it's not that I found tough, but it's interesting and it's worth considering. When I was at INSEAD, we had this course of psychological issues in management. One of the lessons there was that everybody needs to be led differently.
Yeah.
Like everybody is different. So I'm, for example, someone who's very entrepreneurial. You just tell me I want that thing, and then I'll design all the 100 steps to get there. Like I don't need any guidance. You don't need to talk to me. If I have questions, I'll come to you. Like it's a very, very specific kind of person. But not everybody is like me.
Correct.
Many people need more hand holding. Many people need more. They need to learn differently. They need teaching. So it was a wake-up call for me, because before INSEAD and before opening my mind to those realities, it was simplistic. But when we are in our head, we think everybody thinks like us, but it's not the case. That's the funny thing. And for me, learning how to lead meant that for all my reports and all people working for me, I needed to understand what they needed, how they needed things explained to them, how they needed their boundaries set, and in time and in scope and so on. And those things, they're very different from person to person and from company to company. And so I'm still learning those things.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that I think about being in leadership myself is that the learning never ends. There's always something to learn. There's always something that we can do differently or bend. And I often go back to one of my lectures and one of my directors who often speaks about this, is that you don't make a great sailor on calm waters. Like you have to go through those storms. You have to go through those. And we're never prepared for that on our journey, or when we think about the journey that we want, or the North Star is to be a CFO. We often think about the roles we have to go through, but not necessarily some of the lessons, and some of those are life lessons. So no, thank you for sharing that. You're a leader, you're recruiting, you have a team around you. What's the one thing that you look for when you're recruiting, if it was somebody that was aspiring to be a CFO? What's that one nugget, or a few nuggets that should be on their CV?
I'm actually recruiting for an FP&A role now.
Are you?
Yes. Look, I am biased, like all the humans. I tend to look at the CV and tend to prioritize the people who look like me, right? Like who have a similar journey, who have done certain lateral moves. I value that because I understand where it's coming from, and I think that it gives you knowledge that you wouldn't otherwise get. So I am the opposite of someone who would say, I want you to have 5-10 years in a role. I would prefer for you to actually change a few roles, because you would learn so much more if you did.
Right.
So that's one of the things. But when I talk to people, and when I actually give them homework, sometimes I ask them to present certain things to me so I understand how they think. I'm going to boil it down to a couple of words, because for me, trust is very important. I need to be able to trust the person I work with. And to do that, I need them to tell me when things don't work, or where they need help. That's critical for me. But in terms of knowledge and in terms of what they know how to do, for me, there's this book called The Expertise Economy. They tell you about learn, unlearn, and relearn. So people who actually are able to learn all the time are better analysts. And so I do need... In the age of AI, we do need better analysts, because you need that critical thinking. We're going to go back to the problem of how are the juniors from today become seniors tomorrow if we don't actually have that sort of the same career as we did. But essentially, I need people that work for me to be good analysts, good thinkers. Look at the thing and see a problem, see the issues, see the challenges, see a path forward or 10 paths forward, and be able to come with pros and cons for. Because I love this expression. There are 100 ways to skin a cat, right? There are 100 ways to get to a CFO role. There are 100 ways to solve a problem or to come up with a solution. But for me, it's important to see how a person thinks, how they get there. You know?
So it's portraying how they think on their CV. It's seeing those lateral moves. It's then when they come into the room, it's understanding that there's going to be a relationship of trust. And I think that's follow through is important, because if you say I'm going to talk to you at 10, then at 10 you're there. I have had many examples, and sadly, where I set up an interview with the CFO, right? And the person doesn't show up. Wow.
It's just baffling to me. I don't get it. But it happens. And that's something that, Follow through is important.
No, absolutely.
If you say you would do something, do it.
Yeah.
If you have a conversation with me, write me a short note afterwards saying it was lovely to meet you. I do that all the time with everybody.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that touch.
Yeah. And it also builds that rapport. We talk about the qualifications, we talk about the exams, we talk about getting ourselves through the door, but we never really speak about the importance of networking, building relationships, understanding what those certain pockets of people do around and in the business. Because when you do make that break and you become a leader, you have to know what everyone does. The numbers, like a number 5 is probably a number 5 on that paper because 10 different people has impacted the business somehow to get that number to 5.
Correct.
And as a CFO and as a leader, you have to understand the persons, the steps that have been ingrained, that have driven that 5 to be a 5 on that paper.
I'm glad that you said the word networking. I think we don't speak enough about this. Before going to Inside, I thought, is a dirty word.
Yeah.
I didn't want to use it. I didn't want to do it. I thought, what is this? I felt it was all fake,
Yeah.
And I just realized it took an MBA and meeting people from hundreds of countries to understand that networking is actually making friends, literally getting to know people, understanding who they were, what their issues were, what was painful to them, and it's valid in any business relationship. I love this saying. It goes, people do business with the people they like, and people work with the people they like. It's just valid for everything,
Yeah.
And that's why it's networking. Sometimes, especially younger people, shy away from the idea because they feel that they go into a room, don't know anyone, they're expected to make a conversation.
Yeah.
And many times that I go into a room where I don't know anyone, I'm expecting my conversation, I make a friend or two. And one of the secrets that I've learned as well through all of these networkings and conferences, everything, is that if you go to a conference and manage to establish 1 or 2 close relationships, that's a win. You don't have to get to know 100 people because it's not about how many people you know, it's about how many close people you have that are going to bat for you, that are going to vouch for you, that are going to support you, that are going to introduce you to other people that are relevant for you, and so on.
And most importantly, speak your name in rooms that you never imagined you would be in.
Exactly. That is so important.
Oh, absolutely. So networking, a good CV, ability to show how analytical you are, how trustworthy you are. Those are the people we're saying that we need in our team. But also technology. We're missing an important part.
Correct.
One thing that's been changing with our role, and I believe the future's journey to CFO, is that love and understanding for the new technology and what it can actually do for us, but still being anchored by culture. Like technology can't change the culture. It could probably change your mind and how we think, but the culture of the business, sometimes that's driven by us. That's driven by us as leaders.
Yeah, correct. But actually, you reminded me, I met a CFO recently who said, I'm not hiring an accountant, I'm hiring a data analyst. Because all of a sudden, with the emergence of AI, you need an analyst that goes beyond having accounting knowledge. And I think that the unicorn for us CFOs is to find someone who has both.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. So one of the things that we spoke about was about once we earn our seat at the table, our focus shifts because we go in with the focus of, I want to be in the room. And then it's almost, I'm in the room, but how can I stay in the room?
Yeah, you get to a point where you're like, now what?
Now what?
Now what? Yeah, exactly. Well, imposter syndrome is there. It's always going to be there, at least for me. I'm a non-native speaker. I'm not English. I'm not from the UK. I'm a foreigner, right?
Yeah.
You can hear it when I speak, and so I don't feel self-conscious that much. Many times I go to industry events, there are 20, 30 CFOs in the room, maybe 2 women, or in the board, I don't notice it. It's really strange. My brain is just like very analytical and very task-oriented, so I don't necessarily notice that. But it's true that our voices they have a different pitch, they're different. And many times to actually get things done throughout my career, when I was more junior and then more senior, but also as a leader, you kind of have to get the people to agree beforehand. So when you're in the board meeting, it's not the time to actually spring surprises on people. You have to have those conversations before. Everybody has to be comfortable with what's being discussed, and then from there you will have hopefully productive conversation based on everybody agreeing that these are the numbers, this is the situation. What do we do now?
So again, it's like building trust, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a lot of homework.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We done a previous podcast with a different CFO, and it was all about the homework. It's all about the preparation that goes into it. It's not just...
I'm wondering whether men and women are different in this respect, and we like homework more than men. I don't know.
We're preparers, I would say.
Yes, we are. Maybe the CFO role is a preparer, actually.
Absolutely. So another area I just wanted to touch on was just who is Maria outside of this CFO. So, you spoke about that your professional is a massive part of your identity. And no one really prepares us for the fact that we do need downtime. We do need to recharge the brain. We need to be still for a moment, just to almost step back and think, reflect, and then go in fresh-minded. What keeps Maria grounded? What do you do?
So it's a great question. We were just I know we were discussing this, and you were mentioning your children, and I don't have children. My partner is not a big fan of children, therefore no children. But that my therapist is very funny about this. But because of that, then my identity is actually very much linked to my professional, life more than anything. Beyond that, I do have a love for arts. I do love painting and drawing.
You've written a novel, Maria.
I have written a novel. Yes, that's true. I do dabble in writing as well. I did the Faber Academy writing a novel course, actually.
Wow.
I did finish a novel. I sent it to maybe 40 agents,
and
they all said, it's based in Romania, nobody cares. You have to write one based in the UK. And I said, okay, next one. So that's at the bottom of the drawer, maybe in 20 years when I have published 5 others, then I'll have that one out as well. But that was a good project. I did it when I was working for Barclays, actually. It was between the hours of 5 and 8 a.m., which is exactly the time that I used to study for my ACCA or for my FRM. It's just my morning time is very productive, so I tend to do things that I enjoy. And then beyond that, as I love the arts, I am a consumer of arts. I go to museums and then galleries and everything, and I do love painting as well. So when our chairman stepped down in December, I made a really beautiful painting for him. And then he wrote to me to say, actually, I framed it. It's in my office. I'm like, I was so, chuffed. It's just great.
So we're not just a CFO then. We're an artist, we're a writer. I just think that's brilliant.
It's very unusual, I guess, because I am very analytical and I do love finance, but I'm also pretty artistic. And I think it just relaxes my brain. But the other thing that I've started doing in the last 6 months, I used to be obsessed with CrossFit pre-pandemic, and then things changed because everything closed down. But post-pandemic, and especially recently, I get, I think our jobs can be very stressful, and then you get very... it can be very tense. Certain things can happen. Sometimes you don't sleep. I don't know. Sometimes I don't. It's not very often, but it happens. And so I noticed that I can't calm down sufficiently. And so I started doing Pilates every day.
Wonderful.
It's very grounding. I tried yoga before. Wasn't for me. But this breathing thing, it just helps my body to sort of absorb any stress during the day better. So physical moving, cardio, strength, weights, whatever. I mix it up, so I do Pilates and some of those things as well. But it just grounds me. Like working out in the morning is the best start of the day.
And balance is so important. We need to be balanced. We need to know how to balance ourselves and to regulate ourselves, because
still learning.
Because when we need to make decisions, when we want to steer the ship, when we want to bring trust and bring people with us, you need to show the best part of you, and you can't do that in a rush. You can't do that in a panic. We have to do that.
Slow
when we're
down
balanced.
and breathe and calm. And this is, I think, maybe a key thing for us CFOs, because sort of, many times the decision comes to our door, right? Like we have to decide on certain things and specific massive investments and whatnot. And should we buy this company or should we buy the other company? And those are pretty strategic key decisions, and you can't have, you need to. I noticed, for example, when I did a good workout session versus a day where I had to skip it, I respond to anything that comes my way differently. I'm very calm. I'm very grounded. I'm very, very much able to. And if I for some reason I have to skip a few days in a row, then I'm just more jittery, a bit more stressed. I don't breathe as well. I'm not as calm, and so therefore my work output is not as good.
Yeah, and it's important to have that self-awareness of knowing when you need to draw back and become a little bit more balanced.
It's hard one. It took me at least 15 years of career to figure it out.
But it's such an important, integral part of being a leader.
It is.
That balance, that ability to step back, be reflective before we go forward. And that's not trained anywhere.
Unfortunately.
That comes with experience. It comes with taking the rough with the smooth. It comes with setbacks. So no, I think that was a really important message.
Maybe we should discuss with ACCA about, putting in the training something about mental health, something about how do you respond to stress, about that kind of resilience. It's critical, I think.
Well, funny enough, when I was doing my ACCA, that was part of my training. Yeah.
I'm like really old.
because when it came to exams, it was so important to be balanced before you go and sit your exams.
Correct.
Yes, we do rote learning. Yes, we read through the books. Yes, we're at work, and some of us are juggling like multiple things.
So true. Yeah.
But your diet is important. Reading the question is important. Training your mind to not just attack with speed, but also with the acumen, with the analysis that's needed to answer the question. So I had a brilliant tutor, and they tutored me for the first 2 stages until we got to the last 2 exams. But they were very, very good at bringing us back and teaching us not just about doing the rote learning and this is what you need to know. It's about almost giving your mind and your brain time to breathe in order to absorb the information. And some of it, I could probably recite a good few pages out of a corporate strategic level textbook because of how it was taught.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was really, they done really, really well. 3 nuggets, so 3 takeaways. Anyone listening to this podcast who is 3 years away from their CFO role, what are the 3 things you want them to hear and you want them to take away from you?
I'm not going to say it's not impossible, but it's easier than you think, When I was 3 years away, maybe, I thought, this is never going to happen. Why am I not getting that title yet, But like you said, people speaking your name in certain rooms is important. So actually making that networking count, having the right mentors is one aspect of it, but sponsors. You need to actually have the right decision makers and senior executives who see you, who give you the tough projects, who highlight your achievements. And so you need to have those people vouching for you and speaking up for you. So you need to search for them. If they're not there already, search for them. Look out to maybe do a career move where you move into a different company and you have the kind of person that's supporting you. And keep with it. I guess that's one of the things. The other one is, and this is something that I'm saying it as an executive, and then I'm going to say something as an NED. So as an executive, I want to say we're human. We make mistakes. We don't know everything. Sometimes when you ask me a question, I have the answer. Many times I've done certain things or I know certain things, but many times I don't have a clue. The other day, one of the team members came to me and they said, we want to do something. We want to do business in South Africa. Tell me about this double taxation agreement. I'm like, man, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Like, I have never worked on a DTA to understand what's. Let me have a look. Let me just let me read through and understand what our position is, and then I'll come back with an answer. Like, there are questions that I've never encountered those things, and so I'm someone who's in general very humble, very happy to say, look, I don't know, but I'll look into it. And that's why I said I learned really quickly, and that's why I need the people that work for me to learn very quickly as well. But just so as someone looking towards these executive positions, understand that those people holding those positions are humans. They are fallible. They're not perfect. They don't know everything. And so that's why it's more achievable for you to be in that position than you think. So that's
actually a good tip, actually.
Yeah.
Very
So
good one.
it's possible because we're just humans.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about us except we've done certain things, and then people saw us in that
Yeah.
position. Then we got there, and so on. And then as an NED is very different because as a non-executive, I struggled a bit because I'm very much someone who likes to do things, roll up my sleeves, and be an executive. I love that, taking decisions. When you're in a seat, when you're sitting on the board, you're sort of not allowed to do that because you hire your CFO, who hires their executive team to do exactly that.
Yeah.
So from your seat, you're more nudging and influencing in a way that is completely different than an executive level. For me, that was a fascinating change. How do you effect change? How do you influence people when you don't actually have the decision-making power in many cases?
Yeah.
So when you're very junior and looking at that, know that there is another level after that, which is a very different job than the one that the executive has.
Yeah.
And so in your journey, sometimes just have a think that when maybe your direct boss, who's an executive, has a boss who's sitting up there who sees the world a bit differently than how you see it.
Yeah.
And just having that perspective of whatever seat we're sitting in at the moment will influence the things that we do and we say. So sometimes when you're more junior and you're sitting there and you say, I don't understand why this stupid request came in to give this and that slice of analysis like this or like that, just know that there is someone there who has a specific question and needs to understand a specific thing, and be patient. And when you're junior, you try to get to the executive level, it helps to understand that there is that layer above it, because then you are able to do the work that your boss does. You're able to jump into the executive work, not just with the networking, but also with the way people analyze and think at the board level. I think that's another one that's interesting.
Yeah. No, so having the lenses to not just see my work in front of me, but for those who are above and above those who are above me, why are they asking for this information, and almost linking that to the wider business. That's
because let's give an example. You're an FP&A analyst working for a CFO, and then the CEO requests certain analysis, and then the CFO goes on holiday, and you're working directly with the CEO. You need to understand why the CEO is asking certain things. It's because the board is asking certain things, and you have to have that ability to understand that context for you to do an excellent job and be tapped for the next roll-up.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Maria, thank you for joining us on ACCA's podcast.
It was a pleasure to be here.
An absolute pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode of The Journey to CFO. We hope that you've enjoyed the conversation and you've took away some valuable insights. If you did, make sure you subscribe, leave a review and share this with your network. A huge thank you to our special guest, Maria. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your experience and expertise. And until next time, thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of our Journey to CFO.